Welcome back to Apex Mindset. Today, I want to start with a question. And look, it might feel a little confrontational, maybe even a little insulting,
Mm-hmm.
but I promise I'm asking myself this too. Do you think you're a rational person?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really,
Mm-hmm.
when you look at how you handle a crisis at work or manage your team, do you believe you're operating on logic and, cold, hard facts?
It's the story we all tell ourselves, right? We like to think we're the pilot of the plane, just calmly flipping switches, checking the radar, making these calculated adjustments.
Right.
But if we're being, brutally honest with ourselves, the truth is it's a lot messier. We aren't always the pilot. A lot of the time, our biology is actually flying the plane.
And that is a terrifying thought for anyone in a leadership role. So today on Apex Mindset, we're going to dismantle that illusion. We're going to look at why we lose control and maybe more importantly, how to actually get back into that pilot seat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to be really clear up front. This isn't about feelings in some soft therapeutic sense. This is for the leaders out there, the people making high-stakes decisions.
Yeah, this isn't a soft skill.
Not at all. If you are prepping for a board meeting or managing a team under fire, understanding this is the foundation of strategic influence. If you can't master your own internal world, you have zero hope of mastering the external one.
So we're going to break down the difference between two states,
Yeah.
reacting versus reflecting. But before we get to the how, we have to understand the why. Why are we so convinced we're rational when everything points to us being, emotional creatures?
It really comes down to the hardware. We're running modern software, spreadsheets, quarterly goals, diplomatic emails on some very ancient hardware.
Ah, right.
And the way the brain processes things, the order of operations is absolutely critical here. So when a stimulus hits you, let's say a colleague undermines you in a meeting, your brain processes that, but it doesn't happen all at once.
It's not simultaneous. The signal hits the threat detection center before it ever gets to the logic center.
Precisely. It hits the amygdala first.
Hmm.
That's the brain's smoke detector. It's built for speed, not for accuracy. Its only job is to ask, is this a threat? And it answers in milliseconds.
Wow.
So long before your conscious mind can even form the sentence, that was a rude comment, your body has already dumped cortisol and adrenaline into your system. You're primed for a fight before you've had a single rational thought.
So that feeling that I need to say something right now, that urgency, that's just chemistry.
It's chemistry that's masquerading as urgency. And the rational mind, the prefrontal cortex, that's the part that understands nuance and long-term consequences. It's incredibly slow by comparison. It shows up late to the party.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. When that rational mind finally does show up, it doesn't act like a judge. It acts like a lawyer.
That's the rationalization delay. And this is the trap that most smart people fall into. We think our logical brain is analyzing the situation objectively. But because the emotion happened first, its primary job becomes defending that feeling.
Ah, so it's working backwards.
Completely. We feel angry, so our logic starts building a case for why our anger is principled. We feel afraid, so we tell ourselves we're just being cautious.
I see this constantly in business. A leader is clearly jealous of a competitor, but they don't say, I'm jealous. They say, I have significant concerns about the sustainability of their business model.
Exactly that. They build this whole intellectual scaffolding to support a primal feeling. And because the reasoning sounds smart, they believe the reasoning drove the reaction. It didn't. The feeling drove the bus. Logic just drew the map afterwards.
And that leads to this illusion of control. A lot of people listening might be thinking, well, I don't scream at my employees. I don't throw chairs. I'm in control. But silence isn't the same thing as control, is it?
Not at all. Reactivity can be very quiet, very subtle. Just because you aren't exploding doesn't mean you aren't reacting. There's a whole category of subtle reactivity that's almost more dangerous in an office setting because it goes completely undetected.
Okay, so what are the symptoms of that?
Yeah.
If I'm not yelling, how do I know I'm reacting?
Defensiveness is the #1 sign. Someone gives you feedback, maybe it's even mild, and before they've finished talking, your mental wall is up. You're already formulating a rebuttal.
Oh, yeah.
That's reactivity. Or the quiet need for validation, constantly checking your phone to see if the team agreed with your message on Slack. That's a little anxiety loop, impatience, that urge to just prove yourself right immediately.
It's the automatic version of you, not the strategic version.
Yes, exactly. And the cost of this isn't just that we feel bad, it's that we literally stop seeing reality clearly.
How so?
Well, strong emotion narrows perception. It's a survival thing. If a tiger is chasing you, you don't need to see the beautiful sunset. You need to see one thing, the escape road. Emotion prepares the body for action, not accuracy.
So in the office, if I'm feeling threatened by a rival department, I literally can't interpret their emails neutrally.
You physically can't. Your brain filters out anything that contradicts the feeling. If you're feeling insecure, a neutral email will read as passive-aggressive. You become an unreliable narrator of your own life. And for a leader, that's catastrophic.
So we have this hardware problem. The system's rigged. How do we break the loop? There's a concept that feels like the linchpin of this whole thing, the gap.
The space between stimulus and response. This idea is, well, it's often attributed to Viktor Frankl. The idea is simple. There's a stimulus, what happens to you, and there's a response, what you do about it. But in between those two things, there is a tiny, almost invisible gap.
And most of us just skip right over it. It's stimulus, then immediate reaction. No gap.
We fill it instantly with an impulse. The whole practice of developing an apex mindset is about widening that gap. It's about cultivating the awareness to notice the surge of emotion, the heat in your chest, the jaw tightening. And instead of acting on it, you pause.
But just pause that's incredibly hard to do when you're in a crisis. This is about more than just counting to 10, right? It's a shift from being the emotion to observing it.
That is the critical shift. It's the difference between saying, I am angry, and I am noticing a feeling of anger. It sounds like a small word game, but neurologically, it's profound.
How so?
When you label an emotion, this frustration, you actually reduce activity in the amygdala, the feeling brain, and you activate the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain.
You're turning the feeling into an object of study.
Exactly. You can't be the observer and the observed at the same time. By observing it, you detach from it.
Let's ground this.
Yeah.
I want to look at Abraham Lincoln because he's often seen as this, stoic, saintly figure.
Yeah.
But he wasn't born that way. He had to build that gap himself.
Oh, absolutely. Lincoln is a profound case study in learned emotional discipline. Think about the context, the Civil War. The nation is literally tearing itself apart. He was mocked publicly, called an 8 in newspapers.
And blamed for the deaths of thousands.
Thousands. And he had a temper. He felt massive frustration. There's a famous story after the Battle of Gettysburg. General Lee's army was retreating, trapped. General Meade had a chance to attack and, maybe end the war, and he didn't. He hesitated.
And Lee escaped. I can't even imagine the rage Lincoln must have felt.
He was beside himself, furious. So he sat down and he wrote a letter to Meade. And this letter was absolutely brutal. He poured every single ounce of his anger onto that page.
But, and this is the key, Meade never saw that letter.
Lincoln never sent it. It was found in his papers after he died, marked, "To General Meade, never sent." This was his technique, the hot letter. He would write it all out, vent, attack, and then he would fold it up and put it in a drawer.
So why? Why not send it? Meade probably deserved it.
Meade might have deserved the anger, but Lincoln knew sending it wouldn't achieve his strategic goal. It would have alienated a general he still needed. By waiting, by creating that gap, he let the emotional storm cool. He transformed his reaction into reflection.
He didn't deny the emotion, he let it out. But he created a container for it that didn't hurt his strategy.
Right. He bought himself time for his rationality to catch up with his biology.
The modern equivalent is the drafts folder, right? Write the nasty email. Go ahead. Just don't put anyone's address in the to field.
Exactly. Let it cool. Come back in 24 hours. You'll almost always delete it or at least rewrite it completely.
And this leads to another huge point, which is emotional contagion. Because Lincoln's mood didn't just affect him, it affected the entire war effort.
It's a very real phenomenon. We have mirror neurons. We are wired to mimic the emotional state of the leader in the room. If a leader walks into a crisis meeting just radiating anxiety, that anxiety spreads like a virus.
I've seen that happen. The boss is stressed, so suddenly the entire team is frantic. No one is thinking clearly anymore.
And they lose their independence of thought. They stop looking for solutions and they start looking for safety. This is why a leader's ability to self-regulate is a strategic asset. If you can stay steady when everything is chaotic, you become an anchor. You stop the panic.
It's interesting because our culture, especially in tech and finance, it prizes speed, snap judgments. We think a good leader has the answer right now. But this argues that patience is actually a form of power.
We confuse patience with passivity. But in these high-stakes environments, patience is strategic restraint. It's the active refusal to react until clarity replaces intensity.
Clarity replaces intensity. I like that.
And think about a negotiation. The person who can't control their reaction is easily manipulated. If I know you have a hot button, I will push it just to get you angry so you stop thinking about the terms and start defending your ego.
But the person who stays composed.
You can't push them. They can't be bullied into a bad decision because they're operating on their own timeline. They own the gap.
Okay, I can hear a pushback from the audience, though. So
But
I'm just supposed to be a monk, suppress everything, never get mad, because that just sounds like a recipe for burnout.
it is. And this is not about suppression. Suppression is dangerous. If you shove an emotion down, it just festers. It comes back as stress or resentment. The goal isn't to be a robot. The goal is transformation.
Transforming emotion into data. Let's dig into that. How do we take a raw feeling and turn it into a useful data point?
Okay, let's take two common ones, fear and anger. Let's start with fear. In a business context, fear usually shows up as anxiety about a project. If you react to that fear, you might micromanage your team to death or delay things indefinitely.
Right, the reaction is paralysis.
Exactly. But if you treat it as data, you ask, what is this fear telling me? And you might realize, this fear is signaling an uncertainty I haven't addressed. It's pointing to a gap in your plan, not a catastrophe. The fear becomes a checklist.
That's a huge shift. What about anger? That's the big one for a lot of leaders.
Anger is almost always data about a violated value or a crossed boundary. If you're angry, it's because something you care about, fairness, quality, respect, has been breached.
So the anger isn't a command to attack someone. It's a signal that the process is broken.
Precisely. Yelling isn't the answer. Systemic change is. But you only see that if you stop staring at the person and start looking at the reason you're mad. Even envy, we think of it as this petty emotion.
Yeah, shameful.
But envy is incredibly powerful data. It reveals a hidden aspiration. It's telling you what you actually want for yourself. It's a compass. Instead of letting it make you bitter, let it clarify your goals.
This shift really does change the long game. It's not just about one decision. It's about the compound interest of emotional discipline over a career.
It absolutely changes the trajectory of your life. People trust consistent leaders. If your team never knows which version of you is walking through the door, they'll never feel safe enough to do their best work.
It's really about building an internal stability that the external world can't shake.
It is. It's the difference between being a leaf blowing in the wind and being the tree that the wind blows past. The chaos doesn't go away, but you're no longer whipped around by it.
So boiling this all down for the listener who's about to walk into their office, what's the mission for the week?
The mission is to find the gap. You can't control the market. You can't control your competitors. The only thing you can truly control is how you process the world. The first victory is always the internal one.
And remembering that the emotions themselves are inevitable.
They're part of the package. We're not trying to eliminate them, but through awareness, through that deliberate pause, we can direct them. We don't have to obey them blindly.
I love the idea that the person who masters this doesn't become cold or detached. They become clear.
That is the ultimate goal, clarity. In a world that is constantly trying to provoke a reaction from you, constantly trying to get you to click, to argue, to get outraged, clarity is the ultimate power. It's the ability to see things as they are, not as you fear them to be.
That really is the goal. And I assume this just takes practice, right?
It's not a destination, it's a rep. You're going to fail, you'll snap at someone, you'll send the email you shouldn't have, but then you notice it, you analyze it, and next time, you try to find that gap just a second sooner, it's a muscle.
Well, that gives us plenty to work on. I'm definitely going to be watching for that rationalization delay in my own head this week. If you like this and want more insights like this, please like and subscribe to Apex Mindset. It really helps us get this information out there. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.